Villa Filler podcast here, my good friend Dan Wiseman. How you doing, Dan?
Exciting week, isn't it, mate?
It is, man.
It's a big one.
Carabao Cup final. Didn't think we'd be saying that this time last year, did we, Dan?
No, certainly not. Certainly not. It's a crazy world.
It is. I mean, we've... I don't want to say we've had an easy route to the final, because you've got to beat what's in front of you.
Yeah.
But with the highest scorers in the competition, higher than Man City, who were obviously in the final with, if you didn't know, if you weren't paying attention, living under a rock, whatever, we're in the final against Manchester City. Coming into this game, how are you feeling, Dan? Because I mean, we kind of agreed off camera when we weren't going to talk about Southampton away.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very good day. We don't need to reflect on that.
No.
I think the players themselves know how shocking that display was, and that's all we're going to say on that.
Yep.
But no, how are you feeling going into this, Dan?
Well, mate, it's one of those where every fibre of my being that is logical and sensible is telling me to calm down and expect a similar fate to what Watford received in the FA Cup final of last season. And, you know, more likely than not, I mean, the bookies have got us, like, it's like a final, and we're like 15, 16. So I've seen on, I think you said you found 23 or 30. Yeah. So, and this is for a final. And so, yeah, everything that is logical and sensible is telling me that we're going to lose this game. But if you don't go to a final thinking that there might just be a slim chance, just a little possibility that you might do it, then what's the point in going? And so I'm feeling, I've got to go optimistic, mate. I've come up with 5 reasons, as I said before, why we can win the final. We'll come on to those in a little bit. Some of them kind of logical, some of them not. But yeah, we're just going to try and inject a little bit of positivity into what's been, after last weekend, a pretty dire week, to be honest with you.
It was really. It's not what you want before you go into a final, but I mean, maybe it is. Maybe we could use that to spur on into some good form. I don't know. It's one of them ones where, as I was saying to you before, and I'm sure everyone feels this, it would be typical Villa to win the final and get relegated.
Yes.
We're not going to touch on that because on other podcasts that's kind of sent Twitter into another storm, hasn't it? So ideally we want to win and stay up, just so we're clear.
Absolutely.
That's what we want.
Absolutely.
But no, there's this excitement coming into it. Obviously, we've been to Wembley a fair few times over the past decade.
Yeah.
More than a lot of other clubs will get to have gone. Had some good days. Liverpool, some bad.
Yeah.
Arsenal, Fulham. Obviously, Derby County in a good day as well. But I'm excited to be back, man. We're on the west side again. We've been on the west side consistently over the past decade. And you know, there's so much hype surrounding this. I think a lot of Villa fans are just going expecting to have a good day out regardless of the score. There's a lot of positivity on Twitter just about going to Wembley, going to London. It's nice because obviously it's kind of like an away day where you take everyone else. So it's nice for the people who don't really go away from home a lot, and a lot of sort of excitement coming from the Carabao Cup. You know, their social channels, seeing Slaven Milosevic's goal against Leeds before we came on the podcast, stuff like that. I'm just really excited for it, man.
Yeah, it's always a great occasion, mate, and it's a shame that the weather doesn't look like it's going to be great. I think it's going to be pretty rainy in London on Sunday. But no, as you said, mate, it's about, you know, getting the family together. You know, Villa will certainly make our presence felt in London. As you said, we get the green on the West End, and so it's just you've got to go and enjoy it for what it is, mate. And these are the days which, you know, as a supporter of these kind of clubs, that you live for, and that you just pray and hope by some footballing miracle that, you know, we can see Jack Grealish lifting that trophy high above his head, above us at Wembley on Sunday. And yeah, you're absolutely right, mate. It's a day where we can really make Wembley our home, and I think we are the home team. Yeah, the fixture will tell you. And so, yeah, you know, we know that Man City have had problems with their relegation and whatnot, and trying to just sell it basically. And so, you know, we know that we can create a good atmosphere, and we know until the ball is kicked, perhaps, that we'll be having a great day.
Definitely, man. It's one of them things that, I mean, we've got Box Park, in case you didn't know as well. That was nice last year. Well, I say last year. Yeah, it was last year. Actually, I'm forgetting where we're at. Nathan Dawes got a DJ set there.
Yeah. If you fancy some bassline before the cup final, if that, not my cup of tea, but if you fancy it, then the option is there. And no, it's just nice to see that. it's been a really a roller coaster of a season, mate, and you got to make the most of this. These are days and chances for real positives, and it's nice to just give people something to look forward to, something to plan, something to get, as I said, the whole family excited for. And yeah, without a doubt, I'll be travelling down with beer in my belly and a smile on my face, ready to have a good day. And you just got to try and appreciate it for what it is, I suppose, haven't you?
That's the way to do it, man. I mean, I've got a night out on the Saturday for a birthday.
Nice.
So I'm going to be on a bit of a 2-day bender. I think it's the only way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just got to enjoy yourself. I mean, as we've kind of said before, we wouldn't have been in this situation. You wouldn't have seen us in this situation 6 months ago, 12 months ago. So it's one of them things where we just kind of we've got to enjoy the occasion, and hope that there's no sort of overwhelming sort of doom.
Yeah, that absolutely.
Atmosphere. Regardless, even if we go and lose this final, in 20 years' time, we still made it to a final. Mm-hmm. And I know that won't matter for other people, neutrals or Man City fans who are watching the game, who are usually neutrals. But 20 years' time, we've got the memories of going to a final. Literally, the season after we've got promoted, with a Villa manager and a Villa captain leading us out. And things like that, they may not count for most people, but it's something that will be remembered in Villa's history. Yeah, for sure, mate.
Especially how it's been going recently. And yeah, you're absolutely right. This is a day to look back on, and with what Grealish may go on to achieve in his career and stuff like that, it's a nice one to say. Yeah, when we had, as you said, our Villa fan as captain and a Villa fan as manager, that we were there when they led us out at Wembley at that day to play, one of England's Premier sides, and as you said, we're already runners up. That's the worst that this can finish, which is absolutely brilliant. And the run to the final was a little easy. Although the teams that we played wouldn't, if you looked at the fixtures on paper, wouldn't actually seem like that, considering Wolves, Leicester over 2 legs, Liverpool.
As well,
yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, it makes that trip down there worth it, doesn't it, mate? God, the fact that we've got to the final at the end of this. But yeah, no, obviously, we were quite surprised by the Brighton lineup on the day. Yeah. If you remember, same with Wolves. Obviously, Liverpool is a separate conversation altogether. But you still have to beat those teams, mate. And it's not that Liverpool game, especially, isn't actually. I was quite pleased with the result because it can set a lot of doubt in your minds when you're so expected to win, and if you don't, and if they did lose that game, there's so much humiliation and embarrassment on the line. And so to go and actually do that quite comfortably, I think it was 5-0, was actually perhaps more of a credible result than we've seen the Villa get credit for. And we saw what that young Liverpool team did to Everton at Anfield. That they beat them, and then they're no mugs.
They're all world-class players because they beat Everton when they were struggling.
Yeah.
But absolutely no credit put on El Mohammedi's name, is there, for that game or that performance? Absolutely none whatsoever.
Rattled a few fan bases, didn't he, that day?
Literally. But no, I mean, I think now would probably be a good time to touch on your 5 reasons, Dan. You've kept these pretty close to your chest. So I'm looking forward to hearing these. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we'll discuss them. Yeah,
so reason 1 as to why Aston Villa can win the Carabao Cup final is that February has been a pretty bad month in the history of the Manchester City Football Club. So there's 3 different elements to this which we're going to touch upon. The first one is their fixture congestion. So I'm just going to read their. So starting in February, they started with a 2-0 loss to Spurs on the 2nd. Then we had the winter break. They came back. They played West Ham on the 19th. They won against Leicester on the 22nd. The day we record, they go to Real Madrid. They're away at the Bernabeu tonight. They've then got the final on Sunday. They've got United 4 days after that, and then Sheffield United a few days after that as well.
And they're both away games. They're all away games.
They are. They are. So there's a lot of congestion in there, and a lot of tough games. Real Madrid into the final, into United, and then into an FA Cup game. Not easy, especially when you consider they've already played Spurs and Leicester this month. They obviously had the Champions League ban, which certainly is a problem for Manchester City and has dominated their month and a lot of what Pep has had to speak about and the board, and it's shone a pretty bad light on the club. If this ban is upheld and what they're accused of doing doesn't reflect well, then one which not too many people know about, but Sterling did a photo shoot with AS, the Spanish newspaper, the other day, with a Real Madrid shirt draped over his shoulder and a City one over the right, saying about how Real Madrid is the ideal challenge for any player, how he idolises a lot of the players, and hopefully, his words himself was, hopefully we'll see what happens in the future in terms with a move.
Taking this transfer ban pretty
and so they, this has been a pretty bad month for Manchester City, and that's certainly something which means that I think a lot of the people at the club may not have been treating this final as much of a priority as it would have been if it had been an easier month, if they hadn't been banned from the Champions League, if they hadn't had that fixture congestion. There would have been a lot more emphasis on this game, but you've got to try and hope with everything that's happened, with all these fixtures, with the ban, with the they've had some injuries and stuff like that, that perhaps they might have just taken their eye off the ball.
You can hope so, mate. I mean, that fixture list is even for a Man City, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? Like, with a squad as talented and as big as theirs, they are going to struggle over that. Especially with when you've got to factor in the travel to Madrid and back. I mean, it shouldn't be something that affects players, but it seems to.
Of course, it's something you've got to figure.
So it's something we've definitely got to hope. That the storm maybe delays their flight by a couple of hours. I don't know.
Fingers crossed.
No, I wasn't aware of the photo. I'd seen the quotes, but I'd not seen the photo, which is very interesting. But the thing with Man City is they're so just. Pep is a psychopath. He wants to win everything. And I rate that. When you look at Klopp and obviously how he treated us earlier on in the competition, I've got a bit more time for Pep in that respect.
Definitely.
But no, definitely a busy fixture list with everything that's gone on this month has got to play some part psychologically for the players, the managers, and even the fans, because as we've said, they've not sold out.
No, absolutely. And this is one of the things that I'm going to touch on later. But up next is so I think, given the performance that we saw, I think we could see a change of formation at the game. I think we ended the game in the 4-3-3, and I think, although probably doesn't show it, I think we're marginally better than we were in the 3-5-2, and so I think we could perhaps see that change in formation. And the 4-3-3 is obviously the formation that we were playing at the start of the season. We played a 4-3-3 against City at the Etihad, and we went in 0-0 at half time. And that is something where, in a final, if we can get this to 0-0 at half-time, the doubts start to creep in. I think the City players start looking around who's going to be the man to break that deadlock. And the longer that you keep that game at 0-0, and we've shown that we can do it. I remember that first-half performance at the Etihad being really quite promising, actually. I thought we went toe-to-toe with City quite well. We know that we can do it. Absolutely. It was Nakamba and Louise in that midfield with obviously McGinn at the time, who it's finally laced him up again. This is something that we can touch on. Is that he's back in boots, he's back on grass, so his return isn't too far away. But no, as you said, if you can get to that stage in the game where City are so outright favourites and everyone is expecting them to steamroller us, that is when in upsets that you've seen in cup finals over recent years, they get it to 0-0, and the longer that you keep the game going at that scoreline, the more that doubts creep in, and the more that game becomes a little bit more frantic, more that City players step out of position to try and get that important goal, and that's when you get the fine margins in which to act and potentially steal this.
Definitely, and it's one of them ones where I think if we're going to change the formation, it will possibly be unexpected, because pretty much since the turn of the year, we've gone with 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, some variation of three at the back. So maybe we can catch Pep off guard with that. I'm not sure it'll matter too much, but it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, they play a 4-3-3. If the 3-4-3 that we play, you've really got two players in the middle, so there's a one-man advantage for City in City's favour, and you don't want to give them an inch in any case.
Especially in midfield.
Exactly, endless amounts of talent, Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva, Ilkay Gundogan, players like that, who walk into our team, of course. But no, I think a change in formation definitely could work. A lot of people have been who've been suggesting that on Twitter have been shot down, being like, "Oh, well, you said 4-3-3 didn't work before. Doesn't mean it can't work again." We got our better results with 4 at the back. Well, more solid with Mings and Engels.
Absolutely.
Back too. And yeah, maybe John McGinn did play a part in a lot of our better performances, but having an extra body in the midfield just seems like a no-brainer, especially against Man City.
Yeah, of course, mate. And as you said, if you scroll through my tweets, I put out a tweet on the first day of the season after the Spurs game, and I said that the defence looked good enough to keep us up by themselves.
Yeah.
How different things are now, how times have changed. But no, 4 at the back is when we've looked the most solid, especially defensively. Mings and Engels was a partnership which I thought, with Heaton behind them, who actually potentially we might even have a better goalkeeper in goal right now than Tom Heaton. Well, of course, this game in Orjan, this is another thing is obviously we have. A goalkeeper who's been in fine fettle and has kept us in games the road to this final. So yeah, I think the change in team could work in our favour. This next one you're going to like. Jack Grealish is on a mission.
He is.
Reason number 3 on itself. This man, I watched an interview, you might have seen it quoted, whereby he said he's only concerned about 2 things in life at the moment. The first is lifting a trophy with Aston Villa, and the second is playing for England. He hasn't even given a mere thought to relegation. Each game is treated in its own merit. I think that's a fantastic way to look at things. I think our skipper deserves huge credit for staying positive and speaking like this and putting so much emphasis on this game. Because all the fears about relegation, as pressing as they might are, they need to go out the window this week. Absolutely. All that we can think about this week is this 90 minutes, and we're 90 minutes away from lifting a trophy, and the Europa League, which is a scary prospect all in itself.
It is, isn't it?
But I'm just going to hit you with some stats about Grealish this season, just basically telling you how good it's been. So he's won 117 free kicks this season, and was responsible for Fernandinho's red card at the Etihad.
But he dives, man.
Of course, there is that. All those bookings. Yeah. He's had a hand in 13 Premier League goals, more than any other English midfielder. He's created more chances from open play than any other player in the Premier League, including Manchester City's Kevin De Bruyne. This is a nice stat I found when I was doing some digging before the game. So he's played 12 games on the left-hand side as a winger. And in those games, he's made more key passes and created more chances per 90 than both Mane and Raheem Sterling overall this season. If you look at, this is a brilliant metric, if you look at balls carried into chances created, which is a fantastic stat, Grealish leads the league.
Of course, that's a stat that was invented.
Exactly, that is Jack Grealish, isn't it? Sterling and De Bruyne, obviously 2 Man City players, are in second and third. Grealish tops the lot. And as I said, all he is thinking about right now is winning a trophy with Villa and playing for England. And he didn't have his best game against Southampton. I thought they nullified him pretty well. Unfortunately, the case is with the Villa. If you can nullify Grealish, you nullify Aston Villa. It's as simple as that. But Grealish out on that Wembley turf is going to be on a mission, mate. He's going to be on an absolute tear to make sure that he can do everything within his power to give Villa that trophy. And if this is to be his swan song, and if he is to leave at the end of the season, whatever happens, whether we get relegated or whether we stay up, my opinions are that, if we stay up and can promise him a future around players of his calibre, then he'll stay. But if this is to be his final swan song, wouldn't it be lovely for Jack to walk up those steps and fulfil a boyhood dream of lifting a trophy?
Like 8 months after he's guided us to promotion as well. It's crazy. And as well, for Jack, this is an audition. And no, it's not an audition for Manchester City or Liverpool or Real Madrid or any club. It's not. This is an audition for England. Mm-hmm. The whole nation's eyes will be on this game. Everyone will be watching it on TV. Gareth Southgate will be there. This is his chance to prove what we've been saying for the past 5 years, for the past 10 years, since he's been, a little lad who everyone's known as coming through the academy being an absolute maverick. And this is his chance to prove us all right.
Yep.
And prove himself right as well. and prove Gareth Southgate wrong.
Well, this is the thing. I think it's a lot of this about proving a lot of people wrong as well, which is a huge element to it.
There's more people to prove wrong than right.
Absolutely, of course.
Every week in, week out, his sheer class, and we've been saying it for a long time, but we've been watching a world-class player down at Villa Park. And even if we've got to say it, if we've got to acknowledge it, if we do go down, if we win this cup, Jack Grealish is a Villa legend. He's a Villa legend anyway, but he's just cemented himself in folklore if he lifts that trophy for us.
Of course, and it would be a huge moment for him and for his family, and so he's almost a reason in himself, and we've seen how just these moments of inspiration that he's come up with this season. The goal at Old Trafford, the goal against Southampton at home, and all these individual moments where it's not about anybody else in the team. The 10 other players are irrelevant. It's all about when Grealish has the ball at his feet, he can do things which a lot of players in the world can't.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, and on that Wembley pitch, you saw the vengeance that he came back with in that second playoff final after the loss to Fulham.
Yeah.
We all saw the picture of him with JT and how visibly distraught he was. He came back. He put us back in the promised land, and this is just an extension of that. And as I said, if this is to be his farewell, then what a way to say goodbye it would be by giving us that trophy. And doing so in front of the Villa fans, which is my fourth reason, is Wembley's going to be claret and blue, mate. I'm eligible to sit in the City end. I've been to one City game this season, which gives me a right to buy 3 tickets.
Yeah,
and Man City fans can't really be bothered. I mean, guys that have been watching know that we record this in Manchester. Formerly at the Etihad, we're surrounded by a lot of City fans, and I've done a lot of speaking to them, and they can't really be asked. To be honest with you, well, this is the thing: is that it's just another Carabao Cup game. They've been to Wembley. I was figuring it about 11 times in the last 5 years, if you consider FA semis, Community Shields, FA Cup finals, Carabao Cup finals, all those sorts of things. They've been to Wembley a stupid amount of time, and so given that it's lowly old Villa, there are still, as of the website I checked this morning, but between 1,000 and 2,000 seats left in the City end.
They've done well to sell that many.
Yeah, you've got it, and so the fans can't really be bothered, and we know that we're going to be the louder end. We know that Wembley's almost going to feel like a home ground on Sunday, and in a game where these players are going to need so much of a boost and a lift, and the 12th man has never had quite as much of an importance as it does in this game. If we are going to get anything from this, the fans have to be absolutely monstrous, and I think we can full well expect that, and I think the atmosphere will be largely Villa, and I do think we'll make Wembley feel like a home ground.
Definitely, it's one of them ones against Derby. It was pretty much all Villa in terms of atmosphere. There was a pretty even split, obviously, of fans there, but we made the most noise, and it really does count for something. If you can get a lot of the players, as silly as it sounds to say someone is a confidence player, when you've got, I think, 34,000 we've got, that are backing you to the hills, chanting your name, Jack Grealish, players like that, like players like Douglas Luiz as well. When the crowd's on his back, he starts to pass backwards. Nakamba can't do anything when people are on his back. These players need to be lifted up, even if we're like 5-0 down. And I'm sure it will be ironic, but these things count. They really do.
Of course. And then finally, mate, it's a bit of a wishy-washy one, but I saw Ty mention it the other day. It's a final. Anything can happen on the day, and this is something which you really considered. And the last time that we played City in a League Cup game, we won 4-2 away at the Etihad, 2012. That game ended a 13-game winless streak going into that one. As you said, we're the top scorers in the Carabao Cup this season. Conor Hourihane, who, if we do go to a 3 in midfield with Danny Drinkwater cup-tied, the only game he played for Burnley was a Carabao Cup game, so he can't play. You imagine if it is a 3 in midfield, there kind of will be the third man. He's the top scorer in the Carabao Cup this season.
I'm sure Henry Lansbury's probably up there in terms of assists as well.
Yeah, we've these kind of we've seen a lot of the players who we would consider fringe players. What a run to the final El Mohammadi has had.
Oh yeah,
he's been outstanding. We've seen some real players. Oyan, there is no better demonstration of that than the form that Oyan Nyland has displayed on the route to the final. We've had fringe players come up with some really big moments, and players who you wouldn't necessarily expect. Elmo has basically led us to this final single-handedly. You think the winning goal against Wolves, the goals against Liverpool, the assist against Leicester, Frederic Gilbert, another player who came up large in that away leg against Leicester. And the players have really shown up in this Carabao Cup run, and we've actually looked pretty convincing at points. I would possibly say we've seen our best form in this competition, and definitely some of the better football we've played so far this season. Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, no, absolutely, mate. I mean, you think of Swansea winning the League Cup, and they went down. I think Blues did the same. I think Wigan might have done it. Yeah. Portsmouth. So there's a merry old band of clubs that could well see a similar fate to us this season. And my point is, it happens, mate. And the last time I've seen the guys saying that some home truths have been said, and internally that they've really spoken at lengths about the Southampton game, and rightly so. And we had a similar conversation pre-Burnley. I remember Jack saying after the game, and we went and really showed up there. And I think in this final, there is an element of romance to it, as you said, with all the Villa connections in the squad and with the manager. And you just hope that the footballing gods will look down kindly on us, and a miracle can take place down on that pitch.
You hope so, man. It's, as you said, it's a final. Anything can turn up. And that Mings interview, that's the kind of mentality you want. And because obviously, I don't expect any club to ever come out on any form of social media or whatever and be like, yeah, we're going to win this final, because that's just suicide. And you're going to be memed forever.
Yeah.
But there's absolutely no way a single player in that squad will be sat there on the day thinking, oh, I don't think we can do this, because if they thought that, there wouldn't be anyone near the squad. That's just not the mentality that we breed, or we hope that we breed. Everyone who's going to be in that locker room at Wembley is going to want to win this. It's going to be a lot of players' only chance to win a piece of silverware. If you look at someone like Courtney Horse, maybe, if we stay with the back three, Courtney Horse and Ezri Konsa, I didn't think they'd be thinking at the age of 23 and 21 that they'd be in a League Cup final. And there's levels there with them players, I believe. But whether they reach that, I don't know. Whether they get to another final, you don't know these things, do you?
No, of course.
We didn't expect to get here ourselves. And even for Conor Hourihane, Henry Lansbury, I mean, Conor Hourihane winning this will be great for all them threads about him climbing up from League Two and stuff, won't it?
Yeah, of course.
It's the content that football Twitter wants. So we've got to win for the content.
For sure, mate.
And also just for a bit of breathing space, because I think if City win, we're then tied on major honours.
Yep.
And
for a brief moment in history.
Yeah, until we win next year.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, we've got to do this. I think we're going to do this. And I'm going to actually ask you for a score prediction. Are you placing any bets as well? Because I know a lot of people are seeing the odds.
Yeah, I will be, yeah. I'm...
This isn't sponsored, by the way.
No, of course. No.
Please gamble responsibly.
If anyone fancies it, we'd welcome the sponsorship.
Well, there was talk of something.
Oh, really? I didn't actually. Oh, wow. Wow, this is exciting. But no, onto our unsponsored bet prediction. I think there's a moment I can see. I have a feeling about Samassa that...
Big game player, mate.
Just at one point this season, he's going to do something absolutely mental. And I do look at him and the way that he plays and feel like there's a really important goal in him somewhere. And Jack's the same as well. Jack has definitely got a big moment coming this season. And so I look at those looking quite rightly. And with the odds, I think you've got to go back in your team, man. You've got, when I'm 10 points down walking down Wembley Way, I'll be absolutely convinced of this, and there will be no one that can tell me that we won't be winning that game. And yeah, I'm fancying Villa. I'm gonna stick my neck out. Commit social media suicide and say that we're going to take a 2-1 2-2, extra time. We're gonna win it.
I don't think my heart can take that, Dan. I think if we're gonna do it, it's gonna be 1-0. I think we've only got one goal. There's only one man who scores.
Yes, very true. Very true.
If he scores at Wembley,
it's over. It's game. It's game. The real Egyptian king.
I remember saying at Wolves to my dad, I think I mentioned it on the podcast as well, I was like, nah, Elmo's done for now. Like, this is Elmo, his cup games. He's absolutely done for. Then he goes and scores and assists, and I'm so... Exactly. King Elmo.
God, can we imagine that celebration?
Mate, in front
the
of the
same one. There it is. I can see it now. What a day. Yeah, no, mate, you're absolutely right.
Taking over Africa.
One part. Oh my God, this is another element. There will be an entire continent that will go into absolute meltdown if
Apart from Algeria.
Yeah, just there'll be that one nation. Yeah.
That's supporting City. Everyone else is supporting
Everyone else. We've got Ghana, Zimbabwe, Egypt. And so this will mean a lot to a lot of people. And I actually saw Samatta speaking about this, saying what it would mean to his country if he could do something in that game. And I dare say that will be a huge part of his thinking before that game. Is he's not just got the 33,000 and however many thousand Villa fans watching on TV. There is the weight of a nation on that man's shoulders, and
you can only ever succeed when you've got that kind of pressure.
He seems to love it. He's like a political figure in that country.
He's going to be like George Weah. He's going to be the president of Tanzania.
I genuinely wouldn't. If he wins this final, mate, then you may well see Tanzania renamed. To be honest with you, and it will just be, and this entire nation will just be building statues and tributes to this man because he will be a legend if he win that game, and this will be a huge part of his thinking. And so, this has been one hell of a topsy-turvy season, mate. You just don't know what's going to happen. We've seen City are far from the impeccable centurions that we've seen of seasons gone by. You look at how did they lose to Norwich?
Norwich, you've only won like 3 games in the league this season.
These things happen, mate.
Points, so
we've seen them really struggle against some pretty lowly sides this season. And we go into a final, mate, and if there is any Villa account on social media that can match this podcast for positivity, then I'll be amazed, because we've gone from being the Wesley filler to this, and
Carabao Cup.
Yeah, absolutely, and we are
primed
and ready for a Villa win this Sunday.
Mate, wouldn't it be mental? It just, what I'm saying? I was saying there was only one man who score. I think there's, I mean, I don't know the odds, but I'm sure there's pretty decent odds for Samatta to score.
Definitely.
I can't imagine they'd know
about
him. So
I was looking the other day, and I think the top 6 favourites are all City players. You've got to be like 7 or 8 down to see a Villa player. So I think any odds on any Villa player.
12.
Yeah. And so, mate, you never know. I mean,
weirder things have happened.
They really have, mate. And wouldn't it? We might just see something crazy on that day. I mean, a sneaky appearance for John McGinn on the bench or something like that. You just never know.
He's secretly been enrolled as a player all this time, and
he leads us out. You never know, mate. And so, I urge both yourself and all the Villa fans to join me in getting incredibly drunk and being incredibly positive, not just on the day, but all week. I want to see my timeline blown up with as many different reasons we can as to why Villa are going to win this final.
Your poor sister's going to be like terrified seeing you like 10 pints in at Wembley, like, just sobbing afterwards. she's not going to know what to do.
With my £10 programme.
God.
Which looks nice, by the way. The design for that, I tweeted it out the other day, which is pretty
half
smart.
And half Carabao drink.
I haven't actually, no. Oh my God! Wow.
Half and half is taken.
I think both clubs are selling half and half scarves.
It's fanatics.
Yeah, that you can speak as a bit of an insider on this, can't you?
That genuinely nobody at the club, at either club. Maybe there's a few at City, but no one at Villa thinks that these half and half scarves are a good idea.
No.
So the more abuse you give the AVFC store Twitter account, they're not going to change anything. It's fanatics, it's Kappa, it's them. There is, of course, there's someone who approves that. They're probably not a Villa fan.
No.
They're probably like, like my granddad's age or something like that. Oh yeah, half of that'll do. Yeah, no one likes it. We all know that.
Yep.
These are rich white men that are paid to make stupid decisions.
Yep.
So don't give the AVFC store.
It's not their fault, guys.
It's not them. They just have to sell them
for
somehow.
sure.
And which, to be honest, is the hardest job.
We're gonna get some lovely visuals. There'll probably be some kind of display, I imagine.
Yeah.
There'll be flags, or we seem to have done something each time we've been to Wembley, so there'll probably be something similar going on. And it's gonna be a great day, mate. I'm looking forward to it. I think. Thank God we're not playing Sheffield United this weekend, which is what's scheduled, because just they seem to be the absolute antithesis of everything that we are at the moment, and so I'd probably be more up for this game than that one, to be honest with you, weirdly. And so we travel to London in our numbers, mate. I'd love to see you in and around the stadium on the day. We're going to be soaking wet, but all the more for it, my man. All the more for it. Yeah, for sure.
The highs, the lows, the lows make the highs feel that bit better.
Absolutely.
Give us a high, Villa. Come on.
We're due one. Bloody hell.
Yeah, we really are. That's probably a good note to end the podcast on, Dan.
Absolutely.
We're about to shoot another video, unpopular opinion. So if that is out before, I will link that in the end card. Check that out. It'll be in the description as well. For sure. Seeing your guys' unpopular opinions, Dan. It was great to film again. Always good fun, man. Always good fun. A very positive podcast. Yeah, as always. Hopefully we can be this positive when we're sat here on Monday. God, wouldn't it be great? Booking flights to Ludogorets and CFC Cluj and all these places. From a job in America, just going to these away games. Because we'll be in the Europa League. Mate. I can't wait for Barnsley on a Saturday, Ludogorets away on the Thursday. Does it get any other? There's got to be a Tuesday game in there as well. It's the Championship. But no, if you guys enjoyed, hit the like button, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more content. As I say, if we reach 2,000 subscribers before the end of the season, Dan and myself will be giving away a Samatta shirt. Mm-hmm. And if he scores in the final and we win, that's instantly like 10 times the value. Exactly, there you go. I mean, what a shirt to put out for your grandkids. Yeah, but somehow you could even tell them they wore it. They would never know. Why is it a double XL, Granny? I don't know. He's looking a bit chunky. Yeah. So on the day. Camera angles just didn't do him that much justice. We got off on a tangent. Yeah, if you guys enjoyed, subscribe, and we'll see you next week for another podcast. Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Chester's essential. The fulfilling this got potential. It's a main man, a hero. He's the main leader of the gang. Chester. 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 He's the main leader of the